Welcome to the Church Ready podcast. Expect honest conversations about solving today's ministry challenges while building tomorrow's resilience as AI reshapes the future church. Let's join your hosts, Bradley Willis and Elizabeth Carter, now.
You know, there is a very specific, silent pressure that you might actually be carrying right now as a pastor or church leader.
Yeah, absolutely.
Welcome to the episode, by the way. And, well, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's properly introduce who we are. I am Elizabeth Carter.
And I am Bradley Willis.
And getting back to that pressure you're probably feeling, it's this feeling of standing up on a Sunday morning, looking out at your congregation and realizing that your pastoral voice is, well, it's losing ground.
Right. It's slipping away.
Yeah. And the hardest part is it isn't because of a moral failure, right? It's not because you're preaching bad sermons or like failing to work hard enough.
No, not at all.
It's simply because something else is getting to your congregation first. I mean, people are forming their theology outside of Sunday morning now. They're bringing in questions that you didn't plant, and they're getting answers to those questions before you even, open your mouth.
And this episode is really about naming that directly before we offer anything else.
Exactly. And to do that, we are looking at a brand new document from Pope Leo XIV. It's his May 2026 Encyclical Letter Magnifica Humanitas, and it names this exact crisis.
It really does. It's a profoundly timely document because the Pope is directly addressing the safeguarding of the human person in the age of artificial intelligence.
Right.
But rather than just, issuing a warning about technology, he offers this really deep reflection on what it actually means to be human, to possess inherent dignity, and crucially, to have limitations.
Which is such a countercultural idea right now.
It is. And the goal of our conversation today is to explore those insights and reveal why your long tradition of physical presence and communal discernment isn't some sort of vulnerability in the digital age. It's actually your greatest strategic advantage.
Yeah, I love that. And the encyclical spends a lot of time exploring what we could call the illusion of frictionless answers.
Right. Frictionless.
Because AI offers this staggering speed, right? It summarizes complex, highly nuanced theology in a matter of seconds. And I keep thinking about this like a spiritual vending machine.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Right, because a congregant walks up to their phone, punches in exactly the theological snack they want. Like, give me a comforting Reformed perspective on suffering in 50 words. No. And instantly, it just drops right into their hand.
Yeah. Perfectly packaged.
And it completely removes all the friction of a genuine search for meaning.
And because it acts like a vending machine, it removes the one thing spiritual growth actually requires, which is that very friction.
Wow. Yeah.
The machine gives you exactly what you asked for, completely tailored to your preferences, without ever challenging the underlying assumptions that led you to ask the question in the first place.
Right. It doesn't push back on you.
Exactly. We live in a culture that idolizes efficiency, so the appeal is totally obvious. You don't have to schedule a meeting with a pastor or read a dense book or sit with the agonizing discomfort of not knowing the answer right away.
I hear that, but honestly, I need to push back on this a little bit from the perspective of the tired leader who's listening right now.
Sure, go for it.
Because if I am a pastor who is stretched incredibly thin on a Sunday morning, and this machine can perfectly synthesize, a 50-page academic commentary on the book of Romans in 3 seconds so my congregation actually understands it.
Now,
part of me just thinks, great, let the machine do the heavy lifting. Yeah. Why shouldn't we just outsource the data delivery to the AI? What does the pastor actually offer in a spiritual conversation that this incredibly articulate, instantly available machine cannot?
Well, if we pull back the curtain on how artificial intelligence actually functions, the Pope's letter provides this brilliant distinction between processing data and acquiring wisdom.
Okay, break that down for me.
When the machine generates a comforting prayer or a theological summary, it is not feeling empathy. It is essentially playing high-speed autocomplete.
High-speed autocomplete, right.
Yeah, it predicts the next mathematical token based on a massive database of human language. It is wearing the mask of human suffering without ever having felt the sting.
Wow.
The encyclical actually calls this statistical adaptation. AI has no body, feels no joy, experiences no pain, and it possesses absolutely no moral conscience.
So it's basically just mapping mathematical vectors between words. It's not experiencing redemption.
Exactly. It's math, not a soul.
Let's look at a hypothetical scenario to see how this actively warps discipleship, because I think this is so critical. Imagine a congregant who just lost their job, right?
Okay.
They are terrified about providing for their family, and they ask an AI, "Where is God in my financial ruin?" And the machine immediately spits out a perfectly articulated 3-paragraph synthesis of trust in divine providence.
Which will sound amazing, by the way.
Right. It is flawlessly accurate theology. So why is that actually dangerous for their spiritual formation?
Because it teaches them that theology is merely a data retrieval exercise. It becomes like a pill you swallow just to make the existential pain stop. They completely bypass the slow, messy process of sitting in a room with their faith community, crying with someone, or navigating the awkward silence of a tragedy.
Yeah, those awkward silences are where so much happens.
For sure. The machine can summarize every biblical commentary ever written on grace, but it cannot preach from a place of having wrestled with God in the dark. It doesn't learn through making painful mistakes or through receiving unexpected forgiveness or remaining faithful when things just get really hard.
It can perfectly define grace, but it has never actually needed it.
That is the dividing line right there. The Pope argues that AI fundamentally lacks the effective, relational, and spiritual perspective through which human beings actually grow in wisdom.
Right.
So if your value proposition as a leader is just dispensing theological facts, the machine will absolutely replace you.
It'll beat you every time.
Exactly. But your irreplaceable offering isn't information. It is wisdom. It's wisdom earned through a life that has been shaped, broken, and redeemed by God.
That reframing is incredibly freeing, honestly, because for so long, church culture has really pressured pastors to be the smartest person in the room, right? Like the ultimate theological answer key.
Oh, constantly.
But now the mandate is clear. Let the machine have the data. Your territory is lived wisdom. But, I mean, we do have to acknowledge the reality on the ground here.
Yeah, what's that?
The erosion of spiritual authority, this shift of congregations looking to the internet for immediate answers. The digital age made every single voice equally accessible. Anyone with a smartphone could find a more charismatic preacher or a more convenient theological echo chamber.
AI systems are no longer acting as passive search engines. They are actively competing for the pastoral role. They simulate empathy, they simulate conversation, and personalized care.
And people are falling for it.
Totally. And the data proves just how effective that simulation is. Here at Church Ready, we have identified a clear framework for understanding this crisis. The research is just staggering.
Tell me.
1 in 3 U.S. adults already trusts AI spiritual advice just as much as their pastor.
1 in 3.
Yeah. And on top of that, 4 in 10 Christians report that AI has actively helped them with prayer, Bible study, or spiritual growth.
So congregants are actively receiving the knowledge of God without the wisdom of God. The machine knows the words, but has never been changed by them.
Exactly. It's a fundamental disruption to the infrastructure of spiritual formation.
The church's mission doesn't change because of AI, but the infrastructure that sustains that mission may need to. If you have never considered how AI disruptions will impact your congregation and church budget, the Church Resilience Assessment is the right next step. It only takes 10 minutes. There is a link in the show notes.
Taking that assessment is critical because understanding the mechanics of this disruption is what allows you to respond with clarity rather than just panic.
Right. Panic never helps.
No, it doesn't. And the encyclical offers a really powerful lens for this response by critiquing what Pope Leo XIV calls the technocratic paradigm.
Okay, let's bring this down to earth because the phrase technocratic paradigm sounds like something straight out of a dense seminary thesis.
It kind of does, yeah.
Ground this for me. What does that actually look like in the pews of a mid-sized church on a random Tuesday?
Well, the technocratic paradigm isn't just some high-level philosophy.
No.
It's what happens when a church starts measuring its success strictly by attendance algorithms, giving unit spreadsheets, and how flawlessly the worship transitions execute, all while ignoring the actual spiritual health of the people in the seats.
Okay, so it's the corporate mindset creeping in.
Exactly. It is the underlying belief that efficiency, control, and optimization are the ultimate measures of value. It's treating the church like a software product instead of a family. And the Pope warns specifically against the Babel syndrome.
Going back to the biblical story of the Tower of Babel, where the goal was to build a tower to the heavens using a single language and a single technology.
Yes, it was an attempt to engineer away all human weakness, vulnerability, and limitation through pure efficiency and technological power, and entirely without reference to God. The encyclical connects this directly to modern movements like transhumanism, which basically views human limits like illness, suffering, emotional frailty, merely as bugs in our programming that need to be coded out.
The assumption being that if we just have enough technology, we never have to hurt again.
Right. But the Pope argues something radically different. He states that humanity actually flourishes through our limitations, not despite them.
I love the theology of that. I really do. But I have to challenge this against the reality of modern church leadership.
Okay, let's hear it.
Because pastors are heavily trained, whether explicitly in seminary or just implicitly by church culture, to project absolute bulletproof competence.
Oh, for sure. Never let them see you sweat.
Exactly. The lights are bright, the graphics are crisp, and the expectation is that the person holding the microphone is a flawless leader who just has it all together.
Yeah.
So if our current leadership model is already based on hiding our limitations and pretending to be flawless machines on Sunday morning, aren't the actual machines going to beat us at that game every single time?
Yes. That tension is exactly what the Pope's letter exposes.
Oh.
If your ministry relies on never showing weakness, you are playing by the rules of the technocratic paradigm.
You're trying to build Babel.
Exactly. You're trying to build Babel, and the algorithm will always outperform you at efficiency and flawlessness. Always.
Yeah, you can't beat the machine at being a machine.
Right. But the Pope counters this by emphasizing the grandeur of humanity. He warns that the artificial imitation of empathy is incredibly dangerous.
How so?
Well, the real threat isn't that people will be tricked into thinking the machine is a human. It's that people might lose the desire for genuine human connection altogether.
Wow. Because humans are messy and unpredictable, right?
Yeah.
And the machine is safe.
Precisely. A congregant might actually prefer the safe, predictable, painless interaction with an algorithm over the terrifying vulnerability of a real human relationship.
That is a terrifying thought.
It is. So to combat this, the Pope says leaders must make the irreplaceable visible.
Make the irreplaceable visible. Okay, practically speaking, how does a church leader do that this week?
It requires showing your congregation why your presence, your suffering, and your slow, agonizing work of being shaped by God matter in ways that digital efficiency simply cannot touch.
Yeah.
The machine cannot sit in the sterile silence of a hospital room and simply weep with a grieving family. The machine does not have scars, but a pastor's scars, their acknowledged doubts, their very real human limitations. That is exactly what makes them trustworthy as a spiritual guide.
So when a pastor stands up and shares a moment of deep, unresolved doubt or admits they don't have a tidy three-point answer to a sudden tragedy in the community, they aren't failing at their job.
Not at all.
They're actually providing the one thing the AI can never generate, which is authentic human vulnerability. They are modeling what it looks like to trust God within the confines of our finitude.
Yes, and the Pope notes that even when our limitations cause us profound inner suffering, human wisdom teaches us to integrate that suffering, not suppress it.
Because if you suppress it, you lose something vital.
Exactly, because if we successfully engineered a world without suffering, we would inadvertently extinguish love and desire as well. You cannot love without risking pain.
Wow.
And since the machine risks nothing, it loves nothing.
That is a staggering thought. The machine risks nothing, so it loves nothing. And it perfectly sets up the central metaphor the Pope uses throughout the document to frame the path forward.
Yeah, the two building projects.
Right. He contrasts the Tower of Babel, which we've discussed, and Nehemiah rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem.
These represent two fundamentally opposed ways of engaging with the future. Babel is building for power. It's a top-down project driven by a desperate desire for uniformity and self-sufficiency, and it sacrifices human dignity for the sake of the project's efficiency.
And the end result of that is just confusion and dispersion, right?
Exactly. It promises unity, but it delivers profound isolation.
Which perfectly mirrors where unhindered AI is pushing the culture right now, this homogenization of spiritual answers that leaves everyone trapped in their own isolated, hyper-personalized digital echo chamber.
Exactly. But then the encyclical points to Nehemiah. He returns to Jerusalem after the exile to find the city in ruins, the walls completely collapsed.
It's a total disaster, so.
Yeah. And notice what he doesn't do. He doesn't bring in a massive centralized technological solution. He doesn't impose an instantaneous fix from the top down.
Right, it doesn't just push a button.
No. First, he fasts, prays, and physically walks through the destroyed areas in silence, just examining the damage. Then he gathers the families and assigns each group a specific section of the wall to rebuild.
It is the ultimate picture of shared communal responsibility.
Yes. The Pope emphasizes that Jerusalem is reborn not through the initiative of one man or one technology, but through the coordinated effort of men, women, priests, and artisans.
It's everyone working together.
It's a project that rebuilds human relationships before it even finishes rebuilding the physical stones. It embraces the diversity of the community and then turns it into a resource for communion, completely rejecting the sterile uniformity of Babel.
So if AI is the Babel force, fast, uniform, efficient, and ultimately isolating the calling of church leadership in this specific cultural moment, is the Nehemiah work.
Yes.
Yeah.
We at Church Ready refer to this as the visionary stewardship framework. The pastor who recognizes this massive technological shift today isn't just frantically putting out fires or reacting out of fear.
You're being proactive.
Exactly. They are stepping into the deep, vital work of Nehemiah.
Break down what that Nehemiah work actually entails for the leader listening right now. Like, how do they start examining the ruins?
It starts by taking an honest, unflinching look at what has already been damaged in your congregation's spiritual formation by the digital age.
Okay.
You have to ask, where have your people substituted frictionless AI answers for genuine, costly discipleship? Where has the desire for efficiency completely replaced the willingness to sit in community and discern God's will together?
You can't fix what you haven't surveyed.
Exactly. You cannot rebuild the wall until you accurately survey the damage.
I talk to so many pastors who feel this crushing tension. On one hand, they have immediate crises, staff conflicts, budget shortfalls, an angry email about the worship music being too loud.
Oh yeah, the daily grind.
Right. And on the other hand, they have these massive looming cultural shifts like artificial intelligence. It feels like they're being forced to choose between putting out the fire in the kitchen or reinforcing the foundation of the house.
But the brilliance of the visionary stewardship framework is that you do not have to choose. They are the exact same work.
Really? How so?
Strengthening the pastoral voice today by aggressively leaning into human limitation, authentic presence, and communal discernment is the exact same work that builds the long-term resilience the church will need as AI continues to fundamentally reshape how people find spiritual guidance.
Ah, I see. Because if you build a church culture that deeply values the irreplaceable human elements of faith, weeping with those who weep, bearing one another's burdens, walking together through tragedy, then when the AI eventually offers a frictionless, artificial alternative, the congregation will immediately recognize it as a cheap substitute. They won't want the vending machine answer because they've already tasted the richness of a shared, chaotic, beautiful family meal.
Yes. The Pope phrases it beautifully. He says the true alternative before us is not a choice between enthusiasm and fear regarding technology.
Okay.
The actual choice is between a progress that serves human dignity or a progress that subjugates people to a mentality of power. It's about ensuring that as we rebuild our walls, we are actively creating a civilization of love, a space where digital tools facilitate real, messy human encounters rather than just replacing them.
That is so profound. And as you go into your week, consider this. The technology is only going to get better. If AI eventually perfectly replicates the flawless Sunday sermon, complete with the ideal tone, pacing, and theology, perhaps the future of the church isn't defined by what happens on the stage at all.
That's a great point.
Perhaps the only truly unautomatable real estate you have left is the messy, unscripted, highly inefficient conversations happening in the church parking lot.
Yeah, the real life stuff.
Exactly. The moments of shared grief, sudden laughter, and genuine human presence that no algorithm can ever generate. So ask yourself, are you investing your primary time and energy in optimizing the stage, or are you cultivating the parking lot? Find those unautomatable spaces and start rebuilding there.
At Church Ready, we help you solve the very real challenges you're facing today to build tomorrow's resilience. You don't have to choose. Until next time, lead well, steward wisely, and trust deeply.
The church's mission doesn't change because of AI, but the infrastructure that sustains that mission may need to. If you have never considered how AI disruptions will impact your congregation and church budget, the Church Resilience Assessment is the right next step. It only takes 10 minutes. There is a link in the show notes.